800,000 human children massacred, now the Empire faces humanity's wrath. The Empire believed itself eternal. Its banners flew over shattered kingdoms, its armies marched with unbroken discipline, and its rulers claimed the mandate of gods. For centuries, none dared defy its will. But power feeds on fear, and fear demands cruelty. The Empire's War Council, hungry for resources and terrified of rebellion, ordered the unthinkable. In villages across the frontier, soldiers gathered the children, every boy, every girl under 16. Mothers clutched their little ones, fathers begged on their knees. But no pleas could move men who had sworn their loyalty to iron and crown. The massacre began at dawn. By nightfall, 800,000 children were gone. Some by blade, some by fire, others cast into pits. The screams echoed through valleys, carried on the wind until even those miles away felt their blood run cold. Entire generations were cut away like weeds from a field. The Empire thought it had secured obedience. Instead, it had sown a storm. In the ashes of grief, humanity changed. At first there was only silence, the silence of mothers who could no longer sing lullabies, of fathers who sat staring at empty beds. But silence turned to whispers, whispers into vows, and vows into war cries. It began with scattered uprisings. Farmers with pitchforks struck down imperial tax collectors. Blacksmiths turned plows into blades. Women who once baked bread forged arrows in secret fires. The Empire scoffed, sending soldiers to crush the vermin. But humanity was no longer afraid. Every fallen rebel was replaced by 10 more. Each family who had lost a child fought as if death was mercy, because they had already lived through something worse. When imperial garrisons raided villages, they found no livestock, no food, everything had been taken to feed the resistance. When they demanded tribute, they were met with poisoned wells and forests alive with hidden traps. The war spread like wildfire. Legends grew of avengers who struck terror into the Empire's heart. There was Saran the Silent, who carried the names of his murdered daughters carved into his skin. He was said to appear at night in imperial camps, cutting throats before vanishing into smoke. There was Malin, a mother who lost all 5 of her children. She led an army of widows, each draped in the blooded cloth of their children's last garments. They became known as the Wailing Blades, and their battle cries broke the spirits of hardened soldiers. And then there was the childless king, a man with no crown, no throne, but whose very presence united fractured villages into an army. Some claimed he had lost not 1 child, but hundreds, for he carried the grief of all humanity in his gaze. Wherever he walked, people fell to their knees, swearing their loyalty. The Empire responded with cruelty. Entire cities were burned to ash, their people crucified along roads as warnings. But the warnings failed. For each body hung on a cross, 10 rebels rose, swearing vengeance. And then, something older than empire stirred. The earth itself began to revolt. Storms ravaged imperial supply lines. Wolves and crows followed rebel banners but tore apart imperial patrols. Farmers whispered that the spirits of the massacred children had awakened, guiding their parents' hands in battle. Imperial generals dismissed it as superstition until soldiers began fleeing in terror, swearing they heard children's laughter in the dark before being dragged into the shadows, never to return. The great turning point came at the siege of Kael'thar, the Empire's largest fortress on the frontier. 4 months, humanity's ragged army surrounded it, outnumbered and outmatched by steel and stone. The Empire believed they would starve, wither, and break. Instead, on the eve of the solstice, the ground itself split. Survivors swore they saw the shadows of children, countless thousands, rising like smoke from the earth. Their voices merged into a single cry that shook the walls of Kael'thar until towers crumbled. Rebels surged through the breach, their grief made fury, their fury made unstoppable. The fortress fell. The empire bled. And the world changed forever. Now, the empire's heartland trembles. Cities once loyal whisper rebellion. Soldiers desert in droves, unwilling to fight a people who no longer fear death. For what is death to those who have already buried their future? The emperor sits upon his throne, hearing reports of rebellion stretching across the land. His advisors urge him to negotiate, but he knows too well there can be no peace. Humanity does not want treaties. They want justice. They want every drop of blood repaid. They want wrath. And wrath is what they will have. The story spread far beyond the empire's borders. To outsiders, it was a tale of vengeance. To those who lived it, it was survival. Humanity had been pushed to the brink, stripped of its innocence, and forged into something the empire could no longer control. They had lost 800,000 children. And now, they had nothing left to lose.